Who writes press releases? Business owners, nonprofit organizations, attractions, local, state, and federal government, corporations, and lots of other people, schools, everything else. Should you send a press release? Okay, this is very important, of course. If it's about an event, for example, you want to send it to the paper or to the TV or to the radio with plenty of time so they can get it on their calendars, 2 weeks to 1 week in advance. You write a press release, of course, the big thing is it's free. It's free to write this and free to send it out. It's marketing. It gets you the big news out there, the media attention that you want to get. It's getting people's attention, which of course is going to make sales go up, bring people into your business, all those type of things. And of course it's going to improve your search engine optimization. How do you write a press release? Of course this is the main thing, and I have little sheets that I'll just hand around kind of just to get you started. But you want to gather all the information on what you're writing about. And then you want to ask yourself these questions: who, what, where, when, why, and how. And of course, just some tips when you're writing. After you put everything together in the who, what, where, when, why section, you've got your quotes, you have everything. Keep it short. You want to go to about 1 page, a couple paragraphs. You get too lengthy, people just don't want to read everything. And of course, before you send it, I always like to have somebody review, just read over it. If you have time, a different set of eyes is always good because, you know, what you may not catch, somebody else will. And then it's time to distribute. And of course, when you're putting together your press list, I started with the town almost 8 years ago, and I started building my press release from scratch. And I just started getting online, looking at who the reporters were for the area, the newspaper, who to contact at the television stations, who to contact at the radios, all that. And I even started calling them and saying, hey, you know, I'm now working for the town, I'm sending out information, who do I need to send that to?
I've had the privilege of being in a newspaper publisher and being in the newspaper business now for, oh gosh, almost 30 years. It'll actually be 30 years next week, believe it or not. I started when I was 14. Newspapers and media in general have changed a lot, and how we get information out to the general public has changed a lot. You've seen the rise of websites, you've seen Twitter, you've seen Facebook, so you've got social media, you've got digital media and everything. And really what we've tried to do as a newspaper, and most recently under the tutelage of Warren Buffett, which is sort of a big advantage of being owned by Warren Buffett, is he's given us the resources to do the things we need to do and focus on community news. And you all, in terms of what you do, are trying to get news out into the community. So we're a good avenue to do that, as are all local media. I'm not going to just talk about newspapers today, but I will talk about the things that we have in common with other media. What's the best type of publicity?
Free.
Free publicity is the best, and a press release is the best way to get free publicity. The other thing is, and I alluded to this earlier, is that if you have news to send out, and Tennile did a very good job explaining, Tuesdays through Thursdays is sort of the best window. You also need to identify your audience. Who are you trying to reach with this? Is this just the general public, or do you have a targeted audience you're trying to reach? You may choose a media based on the target audience that you're trying to reach. I would not suggest trying to send a press release out to every media in the marketplace, because it's kind of, I call it the shotgun approach, and that's why you won't see your press releases published or listed on websites or make it on TV or radio. It's relevance. Relevance is really the key, and when you write a press release, creating a relevant document or expressing or sharing relevant information is really critical. It's with you already, but the who, what, where, when, why, and how, those are all very, very important. All of those details. Everything I do when I write, and I write a little bit every now and then, that's how I fundamentally structure what I'm writing about. But then I go to the key, and then this is the key question I have listed at the bottom of the page. what is the benefit people receive from attending if you're promoting an event? What's the benefit? Is it gonna be fun? Is it gonna be educational? Is there gonna be information there that's free? Like this event today. This is a free event and there should be benefits. You should leave with some benefits, and hopefully in that packet of information that I've presented to you, there's some key takeaways. You need to craft press releases really beyond the what, when, why, and how, and focus again on those benefits. What is a benefit, okay? And I always use this as an analogy with my salespeople. When you go to the hardware store and you're gonna buy a shovel, what's the benefit you get from that shovel? What are you really looking to buy? You're not really looking to buy a shovel. You've got a need. That need is, you've got a hole in the ground you gotta dig, okay? So there's a need tied to a benefit. And so when you're crafting your press releases, for whatever reason, for an event, to promote something that's happening within your organization, to promote a person that's within your organization, to promote an award you won or something, it's really critical to focus on that benefit. Why would people be interested in this? When we go out and we make sales calls on businesses for advertising, one of the things that, again, that we really try to coach our salespeople on is, what are they trying to sell? Quotes, if you've got quotes, we're always looking for quotes. And that's critical. If you've got photos, photos are key as well. And Joe Tennis was brilliant when he asked you to copy and paste that in the body of the email, because it does two things. First off, you've got your PDF that you have, which is your document. And typically, when you only get a PDF, somebody has to go through and retype that. And if you have to rekey something, I used to be a teacher years ago. I call it typing still, because I taught typing, believe it or not. But when you type or keyboard something, there's an opportunity for an error. You can transpose letters, you can transpose numbers. So when you send it in and we can copy and paste, it's more for your benefit than it is for ours in terms of accuracy. So that is really key. You write your press release to your audience. That's vitally important as well. And again, who is your audience? What's the demographics? Because the demographics will also determine the media that you should use or focus on in terms of getting that press release sent out. In the newspaper business is oftentimes you're providing us a lead with a story. And so the more information you can provide, and like Tennile said, in terms of contacts and numbers and statistics and photos and things like that, that's pitching a story. You're pitching us a story every time you send us a press release, basically. And I don't know how many of you are involved with nonprofits in your community, but nonprofits are, to me, the lifeblood of our community. There's so many needs that our communities have that I feel it's important that we as newspapers can do, and I'd say the newspapers, the 8 newspapers that I'm responsible for, is that in each one of our communities, it's vitally important for us to work with our nonprofits, because you help out with hunger, you help out with education, you help out with homelessness and shelter. Those are just the key components to survival, and I feel it's our responsibility to do what we can to help out with that. And so, again, give us that information. Send us the more information you can. We will help. To say this, but our reporters, and we have 6 reporters in Bristol, not counting sports, and I hate to count sports, and really, I don't count Joe Tennis either, because he's a features writer. But these people have areas of content that they're focused on. I call them content managers, but they call them beats. And if they're working on that specific content area and you send them something, they're working all the time. They're looking for stories, they're setting up appointments, they're making phone calls, they're sending emails. And so, again, go into that subject line, make the subject line compelling and get their attention. And then, again, they're pressed for time, so make it as concise as possible and provide as much contact information as you can. And so if we put for immediate release at the top, that's kind of like the title for every one of your press releases. If you do that, that's going to get our attention. But in your subject line, in addition to putting for immediate release, again, you have to get kind of creative in how you write it to catch people's attention. So if I just see something that says press release, I'm not going to pay as much attention to it as I am to something that has a benefit or something that has urgency. Urgency is also another key. But if you have a retail event and a nonprofit in the community is gonna benefit something from that event, I'm probably gonna look a little differently, okay? Because you're doing something not only for yourself, but it's also something for the community. So if you can tie in with a nonprofit organization and get them involved in it, there's a much stronger likelihood, especially with my newspapers, of us publishing that press release, if it's just retail oriented. But one of the things I'd like you to make sure that you do, again, and this will help really reinforce your press release, is if you have key press that you're sending this to, after you've emailed it to them, and hopefully it's emailed and not mailed, because we really don't get a lot of press releases mailed anymore, and we typically don't get a lot that are faxed. The fax machine is sort of like a dinosaur that's gone away. I'll never forget the first day I saw a fax machine. This was really scary. But I thought it was going to revolutionize the world. And it sort of did. It led to email. Yeah. But what I would encourage you to do is, in addition to emailing that press release, is if you have a contact who you email it to, and email it to a person, don't email it to a mailbox. I can't stress enough the relationships and establishing relationships with people that are the media in your market. Yeah, permissions for use of photos, use of images, trademarks, things like that, that's also very important. And again, if you win an award from a manufacturer, you need to get their permission to utilize their logo in the press release, basically. And if you use it for advertising. You did an excellent job.
We appreciate all of these classes. We are able to offer them free.